All right, hi everybody, welcome back. I am Bruce from the Epic Experiment Podcast, and I am excited to bring you something a little bit different. I'm going to bring you a deck tech. This deck tech is pretty special to us because I don't know if any of you have been listening to the show regularly, but my co-host Lux has been talking for ages about brewing a a Nethroi deck. And so we finally did it last night on the show, and I wanted to share with you guys the deck list because I think it was actually pretty fun experiment, and pretty cool. All right, so let's get down to business. First, let's talk our commander. Our commander is Nethroi, Apex of Death, which is 2 white, black, green for a 5/5 with Death Touch and Lifelink. And it says whenever this creature mutates, return any number of target creature cards with total power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. I mean, you can go and get a whole lot of reanimator stuff going with this guy, so he's lots of fun. And then he also has a mutate cost of for 4, and then a hybrid white green, and then black black. So this guy is a pretty cool commander, and he clearly wants you to go into a reanimator strategy where you're going to want to be able to trigger his ability to pull a whole lot of creatures out of your graveyard to great advantage, hopefully winning you the game. So the the way that we built this is very fair. We looked along the lines of how do we maximize Nethroi's ability to mutate. So not just being able to mutate Nethroi onto other creatures, but have it be a target where we can mutate other mutating creatures onto it. So we went through and we found another 10 or so mutating creatures that you can play that are going to make your deck just sort of extra good in terms of pulling things out of your graveyard. So you have an Auspicious Sterix, you have a Boneyard Lurker, a Cub Warden, a Dirge Bat, Gem Razor, Glowstone Recluse, Insatiable Hemophage, Migratory Greathorn, Necropanther. Is that everything? That's and Vulpikeet. There's the last one. There's Vulpikeet. So all these different creatures have a mutate ability that you can then target onto our dear friend Nethroi, and every time you do, you get to pull more and more things out of your graveyard. So the question becomes, how do you put things in your graveyard? If you just expect your stuff to die and naturally land there, you're going to have a problem. So you're going to need to find a way to do a little bit of self-mill to help you out. So some self-mill methods that I am particularly fond of, things like Nyx Weaver. Nyx Weaver is a great little card. People often forget about it. Look, you can see it right there on the screen. It's 50 cents in non-foil. So it's got reach. For 1 and a black and a green, you get a 2/3 with reach as an enchantment spider. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. That's the text we want. We want to put things in our bin so that we can get them out with Nethroi. Similar to that idea, Old Stick Fingers is one from Midnight Hunt, which plays a similar trick. So when you cast a spell, reveal cards in the top of your library until you reveal X creature cards. Put all creature cards revealed this way into your graveyard, then put the rest onto the bottom of your library in a random order. So you're going to be looking for creatures in your graveyard to go and use Old Stick Fingers to power it up, make it go. Satyr Wayfinder is going to put more in your graveyard, so that's just useful. And Golgari Grave Troll is a big one that you can power a whole lot of nonsense with this one to put 6 cards at a time to go return it to your hand with Dredge. Underrealm Lich is another one that helps you put things in your graveyard, so lots of good things to go on. One interaction that we were sort of playing around with was this idea of Scourge of the Skyclaves, which as a creature, because of the way it's worded, that if it has negative power, you can now pull things out of your graveyard to equal up to 10 power, which means you could get far more than actual 10 power out of your graveyard if Scourge of the Skyclaves is in your graveyard. I forgot some mill targets or some ways we can do some milling. So other ways you can mill are things like Altar of Dementia, which is also going to double as a win condition. I'll talk about that in a second. But we have Debridge Chant and the Mending of Dominaria, which are both methods by which you can mill more into your graveyard. So as you can see, there's a reasonable number of ways to go and get things and put them in your yard. Not a crazy amount, but there is a fair amount to power this particular deck. Um, Now, one of the things Lux was very big on was on the playing our Stoneforge Mystic, which is by far and away the most expensive card in the deck, and not something we would normally play. But it's Lux's deck. He's got a Stoneforge Mystic he wants to run. We're going to do it for him. So if you're playing Stoneforge, though, you're going to want to have a package of equipment that you're going to want to put into play, and we're no different here. So Lux is very big on Helm of the Host, and this was his number one target that he wanted to use to put Stoneforge Mystic's work. Basically, you put this into play, equip it to something, and now you're going to start making tokens of the creature each and every combat step. Lightning Greaves is another useful one that you're going to want to use. Oh, pardon me. You're going to want to use this to go and give your creatures haste or shroud, particularly to protect your commander, which is a particularly valuable target to you, but other things as well. And then the last piece of equipment, so we're not having a big package, and it's a little unusual, but is Cliffhaven Kite Sail. So this is going to auto-equip, which is kind of a nice feature from the artifacts from Zendikar Rising Block, again, because you know automatically your creature is going to get flying and going to probably get in. Which is fantastic when you're looking to connect with big things that may be heavily mutated up or wearing some counters or whatever else. So Cliffhaven Kite Sail is a particularly useful one. Let's talk about our removal package. Our removal suite is pretty strong. We're going to be running an Abzan Charm, which is just a modal way to get rid of things if you need to, but you can draw cards, put counters and stuff. It kind of does a little bit of everything. Not well, but it does everything well enough that you're going to want to play it. Death Sprout is a kill spell plus a ramp target, so seems good to me. Harrow's going to find more land. Wait, I missed D-Spark. D-Spark's going to exile target permanent with mana value 4 or greater. Mortify, Mythos and Nethroi, Putrefy are all going to be ways that you're going to be able to remove problematic permanents to make sure that your board is under control. We're going to include a Semester's End here as a acknowledgement that Teferi's Protection would probably be better here, but Semester's End is kind of a nice budget option. It exiles your board and is going to return them to the table with +1/+1 counters, and that's kind of neat because if you've ever played a game that's heavily reliant on creatures, if you don't have some way of protecting them, you're going to get beat. All right. Then what are our win conditions in this deck? Because there's a lot of playing the usual kind of overwhelm your opponent with value sort of package, but there is a definite route by which I think you win with this deck. One of the methods is to stock your graveyard pretty full and hope they can't Bajuka Bog it, and then you can use Earring Ultimatum to pull everything out of your graveyard. So there comes a point in time in the game where if you can ramp a little bit faster than your opponents, where you could Cleansing Nova everything and then Eerie Ultimatum it all back, and you'd be pretty much in a position to probably close the game out there in short order. Oh, pardon me. The other method that we had is something like Phyresis. So Phyresis gives one of your creatures Infect, which is going to allow you to hopefully knock one person out, maybe two, depending on how responsive they are to letting your creature remain around. Now, typically, you play Phyresis, give something Infect, it's going to die pretty promptly. So you're going to not get too many opportunities to use it, but you might get a little bit. And then last but not least, I think is the other big way to slam a win. There's two, I guess, among our artifacts, is Altar of Dementia, and then there's Helm of the Host. Well, Helm of the Host can result in some silly things with tokens and a variety of other creatures. But Altar Dementia is the one that I think I like the best here, and here's why. So this is sort of doubles into your whole strategy. You have Altar Dementia, and now any creature that you have on the battlefield, you can sacrifice to Dementia to mill your opponent. It doesn't sound awesome until you can mutate your Nethroi back into the battlefield and pull everything right back out and go to work again. I really think Altar Dementia in this deck is really, really powerful, and people probably ought to be playing it more than it already is, which is a significant amount. But yeah, Ultimate Dimension is a win, definitely a win con in this deck. All right, so that's the deck. Now the nice piece about this deck, it's not particularly expensive. All right, it comes in at, I believe, $180 or so. Let's go see what our price. Oh dear, where did it go? But yeah, somewhere about $180 range when we priced it all out, and which makes it again a little bit on the higher end for our deck. Most of the time, we try to keep our decks on the show to about $100, but this one is a little bit more, and but I don't think that's a bad thing. Um, Now, I would say you can make this deck quite a bit more affordable by removing the Stoneforge Mystic and putting in one of the other things that will return or go and tutor up artifacts in white. There's Quest for the Holy Relic, and then there's Relic Seeker, I believe is the name of the one from Origins. They can play budget options instead of forcing you to play a Stoneforge Mystic, which is really quite expensive. However, it's a fun deck. Lots of good to be had. Lux was building it tonight and was excited for the prospects of what this particular deck can do. All right, everybody. So that is going to be our deck tech on Nethroi Apex of Death. If you want to hear more about it in depth, you can hear it on our show episode 90, Nethroi for Lux. And you can find that on thelotuscouncil.com, on Podbean, on Amazon, on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. So come and check us out. Once again, I'm Bruce with the Epic Experiment Podcast. Thanks very much for checking out, and I'll talk to you next time.